Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. My name is Gary Mack, and I'm joined, as usual, on a Sunday by the great, the one, the only, Mr. Rich Baxter. Rich, how are you on this? I guess it's a kind of an overcast, chilly Sunday, sort of a fall, wintry day out there. No sun, overcast. I mean, it's overcast, but I better get away from the weather reports and just say, Rich, how are you?
Hey, thank you very much, Gary. Doing great. It's not as bad around me right now. It's a little spring-like out there. Nice. We got some sunshine for now, but uh, feeling much more like spring because guess what? This past week, training in Arizona, and I couldn't be more happy. How about yourself?
Oh yeah, it's great to see the boys out there, and what's the biggest thrill? I think was I was watching a little video clip, and that first pop, when you hear that pop, the pitcher throwing a ball, and the catcher catching it, and the pop of the mitt and the crack of the bat, you hear that for the first time in the year. It really is it's a big thrill for us baseball fans. Other people may not realize it and say, oh, you're crazy, but you hear that, and it really means that summer's around the corner and that baseball's around the corner. And I can't wait. It's just and of course, some of the guys are in earlier, got in early last Monday because they're going to leave camp and go to the World Baseball Classic camps, I guess, for their teams. Uh, got a few days in ahead of time with their regular team, so uh, it's going to be a great time, and we're gonna have some baseball games early with the World Baseball Classic, so that's even better. But Rich, can you believe already we're almost done with February? It just
Yeah,
seems like it just came.
yeah. Time is flying by, as we were talking about a little bit before the show. And by the way, I want to wish you a very happy birthday um, this past week as well.
Well, I thank you so much. It's very kind of you. It was a number I don't care to
Disclose.
to I don't care disclosing it. It was
Yeah,
70, but I don't like it myself.
I hear you. But yeah, our
Uh,
listeners are probably like, oh, God, like George Washington's on the show.
yeah, right.
But yeah, congratulations. And
Thank
as we
you.
were talking about, we feel great, we feel young. And as you said, when we see pitchers and catchers report, and then the crack of that bat, the pop of the mitt, you know, I looked outside the window the other day. It was a little chilly out, but the sun was shining. I was like, I could feel like it's 80 degrees because I saw that spring training down in Florida. And
Yeah,
like you said,
yeah.
you see that baseball, you hear the pop of the mitt, and it's refreshing. It really shows what kind of baseball fans we are. I never hear football fans talking about, oh, the smell of the pigskin or catching a football. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
with me and you, it's like a rite of spring almost. It's
That's
something
right.
you get excited about, and it's very exciting. I can't wait, and I love the long season of baseball. The long games. I don't mind that there's 3 hour games. I don't mind 4 hour games. I'm not one of those time watchers. I want to enjoy the game. So we'll talk more about that with the rule changes all year long, and especially on this show. But starting right off, one of the biggest stories last week was a guy that's going to opt out of his contract, and he's in a pretty big contract. I was very surprised to see this.
This is getting nuts, Rich. You're talking about Manny Machado, of course, who finished second in the National League Most Valuable Player voting last year. He confirmed on Friday that he intends to opt out of his contract after this season. And he said to one reporter, there's a lot of money out there. As a player about to opt out, it's pretty good to see. He's 31. Uh, the Padres reportedly offered to add another 5 years to his contract and 105 million to the end of his current contract. And if you factor in the voidable part of his current contract, what's left 5 years, 150 million, and that San Diego would owe him 255 million over the next 10 years. And it wasn't enough to get his name on a new contract. Originally, he signed a 10-year pact worth 300 million with the Padres prior to the 2019 season, and as per that agreement, he has the ability to opt out this winter or next winter. So these guys are opting out of these contracts, Rich, that are crazy, money to begin with, because there's more money to be had, they think. But, you know, 31, and what's he going to get? He's not going to get another 10-year deal, I don't think. We'll see. But
Yeah.
it's nuts. And another big contract, Jacob DeGrom opted out of his contract here with the Mets and turned down 34.5 million, I think, was what he would have been paid had he stayed on the contract. He got a larger contract from Texas, but lo and behold, he missed the first 4 days of training camp with a sore left side, a stiff left side. So, uh, there's always that injury thing, and teams taking chances on this, and
Hmm.
we'll see. San Diego might just let him go after the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
Um,
I wouldn't be surprised. And as you said, it's ridiculous. I was curious to see what you were going to say about it, and we didn't talk about it before the show, but I'm appalled with it. It's everything that's wrong with baseball, and I realize that each player is their own individual player, but come on, $300 million, a 10-year deal. You're making $30 million a year. Maybe he's unhappy in San Diego, but maybe it's a grab for money too. I don't know. But I'm so glad that the Phillies didn't end up signing him, because I don't like a player like that. I don't care for, this business end of baseball creeping into the headlines, and especially something like this. I think he's going to face a lot of flack for this from the fans.
well, he's going to put a lot of pressure on himself too for this year, which is, you know, uh, going to be difficult. I mean, last year he did finish second in the most valuable player thing, but he's got to top that. I mean, he's got to equal out or top that this year, especially opting out. Look, I know Jacob DeGrom. Getting back to him, last year he announced that he was going to opt out at the end of the season, and then got hurt and missed, 3/4 of the season. So he opted out anyway. So it's kind of crazy that they have these clauses, but I understand why the agents do it. I understand why the teams do it. Because if you sign a guy to a big long contract and he's not working out, um, what do? You're stuck. The Mets
Yeah,
went through that with a Jason Bay. They were stuck
yeah,
with him and it wasn't a 10-year contract, but he had a 3 or 4 year deal, and the guy was just not didn't play well, and never really played well again. Um, but they were stuck with him, and had there been an opt out, maybe he would have opted out for more money, or maybe see. I think if you're going to have an opt out, it should be both ways.
yeah. It should be both ways. I mean, you got a team that's committing that much money for a long term to one player, and it's a one-sided opt-out. I don't understand that. I really don't. But Machado, let's look at his stats for the last 4 seasons with San Diego. He's got a 280 batting average, which is average to me. It's not anything great. You're not talking Pete Rose there. Uh, 108 home runs. All right, I took my iPhone calculator out. I don't know if you can see it. For some quick math here, that's 27. That's 27 average home runs per year. Okay, that's pretty decent, but it's not Aaron Judge. Okay, let's look at the RBIs. 340 RBIs over 4 seasons, 85 RBIs per season. Okay, is that $30 million a year anymore? I mean, I
It
don't
is
think so.
nowadays.
And
It is.
it's not $40 million a year,
No, 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 no.
unless this whole world is crazy with these prices. And a hot dog's going to be $50 this year, and a beer's $20. There's got to be a limit to this, but someday maybe we'll get to that limit. But Machado apparently opting out for more money senses some money in the air.
Well, I think what's going to happen eventually is what, and again, I hate to keep bringing up the Jacob DeGrom situation, but it's what I know best covering the Mets, and what's going to happen is that you're eventually going to find teams that are going to say, no, I'm not, you can opt out, but I'm not going to re-sign you. And then there may not be a market somewhere else for a higher price. In DeGrom's case, there was a market. Texas wanted starting pitcher badly and somebody with experience and a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, and they were willing to take a chance. We'll see if that works out. If it doesn't work out, then you might start to see these things not happen unless it's a Mike Trout or a Shohei Ohtani or something like that. But even a Mike Trout now, Mike Trout's not 25 anymore. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not the same player he was 5, 6 years ago. He's still a great player. But if he opted out of his contract now, I don't think he'd get the same kind of money. He may or may not be. He's not putting up the same kind of numbers that he was, uh, you know, 8 years ago or something. And that's not a knock on him. Believe me, I'd take the guy in a heartbeat. But
Yeah.
he's had a lot of injuries, and you don't hear him as much. He's kind of overshadowed by Otani with the Angels, and so those big money deals, those length of time, and I think that's why a team, in a way, you said you don't understand the opt outs, but I think that's why a team approves the opt outs, because they can throw a lot of money at a guy, and if there's more money around, he's going to
Hmm.
opt out, and they can get out from under that contract. So I think it kind of it's that's the way it's going to work. And if other teams don't pick them up, and there's always going to be somebody, probably a big name, but the second tier guys, they don't start getting picked up, I think you'll see the contracts drop. But look, it's the prices never go down, Rich. You know that. They never go
Yeah.
down, and it is what it is.
And one thing we were talking about on the last show is the bankruptcy of the Bally Sports Network. So
Yeah.
that's going to affect baseball and revenues and things like that. So maybe these players don't read the news, possibly, but that was an interesting development last week. And of course, the upcoming rule changes are an interesting development. And we got an email from our good buddy Jeff Cohen, who does baseball and barbecue podcast, along with Len, his broadcast partner there. Great show.
Hmm.
Check them out over at baseballtalkradio.com. But Jeff's email says, "Hello, Rich and Gary. I was thinking about these insane new rules and came up with scenarios and jargon that we could use and probably never thought of before. So he's talking about the ghost runner being placed on second base in extra innings, and also a strikeout without throwing a pitch. When a batter takes longer than the allotted time on the pitch clock, which also he says should be called the pace clock, the
Yeah.
batter is charged a strike. So theoretically, a batter could be out without a pitcher throwing a pitch in 2023. So that's going to be kind of strange. And
Yeah.
the bigger bases in 2023. I'm just amazed at these rule changes and where they came from and why. I realize games do have to uh, evolve a little bit and change. I like the no shift rule. I'm not a big fan of that when they shifted and the player like a lefty batter, they have four fielders over in right field, so he couldn't get a hit practically. That might change this year. That would be interesting. But as far as timing pitchers and things like that, not in favor of it. That's that's my own thought. But
Well, and Jeff brings up about uh no shift, but it doesn't rule out the possibility of moving an outfielder in over to a short position. I mean, you could and I think Jeff covered that in his email as well. I don't have a problem with the bigger bases. I think the problem with the bases really um were the coating of the bases. They made them to look pretty for television, I think, and but they paint those bases. If people don't realize that, and
uh,
they get slick in wet weather. Uh, we used to. Now I'm going to date myself again, but we already gave my age. But when I
back
was a
in
kid, we
1950. No, I'm kidding.
back in 1960, we used to have those canvas bases. I don't know if you had canvas bases
Yeah,
when you were a
canvas
kid,
spaces. Yeah, of course.
and I don't know what the hell was in them. Some cotton balls, and they threw them down. And then I don't know what these are made of in Major League Baseball, but whatever it is, it does get slick on a rainy day, and guys can get hurt. So they were going to try to change that. I don't have a problem with the bigger bases. I think it will save some things. I just don't get um the shorter. It's going to be a shorter base running, but they're going to say that no, it's still 90 feet because the 90 feet goes from baseline to the middle of the field, and then middle of the field to the other baseline. So that's where they're going to get the 90 feet from, I would imagine. Uh, but
If anything, I think a bigger base is going to maybe cause you to trip more. I mean,
it
uh,
might, but it gives you just that, like a bang bang play at first base. It gives you that much more. I think that's what they're looking at, things like that.
yeah.
It might come around second or third. You're right, it could hurt you there, but I always said, if they were worried about bang bang plays at first, what I would have done is uh growing up a kid in New York City, we played a lot of softball on schoolyards,
Hmm.
and they would paint down the diamond on concrete in the schoolyard, and you'd play softball there. And we had two bases, but they were next to each other. They would paint two bases next to each other,
Uh,
especially at first base. So you hit the ball, you're running, you would have one base to touch, and the first baseman had the other. So you would avoid those kind of collision type of things. That would be an opt out thing. But I think the main reason they're doing this is because of bang bang plays and guys blocking the base. So they're giving a little bit more of a surface area for a runner. They want to encourage more running, more they and I'm all for that. I want to go back to old school baseball, more running, more hit and running, more bunting, do more of that sort of thing. That's just as exciting. I think it's more exciting when a guy drag bunts
Yeah.
uh than a home run is. I mean, home runs are great. I love home. Don't get me wrong. I love home runs, but there's nothing. The most exciting play in baseball is a triple, I think.
Yeah.
You know, uh, or an inside the park home run, of course, but that's very rare. But a triple is very exciting, and a drag bunt and stolen bases, because it makes you, if you're a fan watching a game and you got to watch that base runner and the batter and the pitcher, it just gets your attention more, I think. And they took that away from the game, and now they want to bring it back. So
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the bases. The pitch clock I don't like, but you know what? It's like anything else. We'll get used to it. They did it in the minors.
Hmm.
The guys coming up, we discussed this before. The guys coming up in the future will have no problem with it because they're doing it anyway in the minors. It's the current guys that'll have any issues, if at all. I don't think they will, though. The top pitchers usually work pretty at a pretty good pace anyway, so I don't think they'll have a problem with it. And I still hate that ghost runner though. That to me is the worst thing that
Yeah.
they could
Yeah.
do.
And thanks to the MLB, I just put this on the screen if you're watching the video version, which you can find over at YouTube, or of course, we stream it to our Facebook page here on Facebook every week live. Search out the Baseball Talk Radio Show, and you can find us. Hit like. It's almost like the subscribe button on YouTube, and then you'll get notified when we go live or we have a new video for you to watch. But MLB's put out these rule changes in a nice large screen here that I can show nicely on our broadcast. And here's like the pitch timer things. And I hope they don't broadcast this on TV every time a pitch is attempted, 15-second countdown. Don't show me that this year, please. Or I'll just have to listen on radio because, or I won't watch the games if they have a little pitch timer in the bottom of the screen. Come on, I mean
They
this is
might.
ridiculous. Runners on 20 seconds, bases empty 15. That's going to go by fast, folks. It's almost going to be like the NFL when they have like I don't even know how long they have 10 seconds to snap a ball, maybe. Um, and you're going to see a lot of violations this year. It's just going to be one of those things where a pitcher's going to be distracted or whatever. And there's always that batter pitcher relationship that, has to be right. Or a pitcher's just going to throw the ball. If the batter's not ready, they call time at odd times. That's what screws up a time of baseball. But anyway, here's the shift restrictions here on the video version of the show. Two fielders must be positioned on either side of second base when a pitch is released. So you're not going to be able to cross that imaginary dotted line that goes from home plate out through second base and out to the start of the outfield there. Shift restrictions increased batting average and decreased strikeouts in the minors while giving players more opportunity to show off their athleticism. Yeah, they might get more hits this way.
But if you also notice with that,
Mhm.
that it doesn't say anything about the outfielders, and that's what I think Jeff's point was, that there's nothing saying that you can't move an outfielder into a shorter, like a short center fielder, or if you've got a dead pull left-handed hitter up, you could move your left fielder over between the first and the second baseman.
Uh-huh.
Theoretically, I mean, I don't know, but that's what Jeff was trying to point out in his one of the points he made in his email. So that's
Yeah.
something to be aware of and to look out for.
Yeah, maybe there's other wording that we haven't seen yet for the outfield because, yeah, that would make a lot of sense if they weren't able to move either, because like you said, yeah, the left fielder could come over into the right field, and then you have the same situation, you'll just
But
have
then
the
you run the risk if a guy does hit it down left field, he can run all day.
yeah, and that exists now. I mean, on certain shifts, or last year rather, and the year before that, and every other year before that, sometimes the whole left field was open for a player if they wanted to just slap it down left field and play quote unquote dirty pool, or in my opinion, they should have been doing that. Like
Well,
why,
that's the
if
way, yeah.
a baseball team's going to give you a hit, why not just hit it down there and get a hit? I mean, I don't understand it. You know, uh,
I
it's
agree.
elementary on that, but the bigger bases here, getting to that, 15-inch square going to 18-inch square. But if you saw some pictures online, Twitter, or wherever you happen to watch your baseball, they had the comparison of the bases. They looked awfully much bigger than 3 inches bigger, but it reduces 3 inches from home to first, home to third. So it does reduce a little bit of the steps. So, like you were saying, Gary, some of them bang bang plays are maybe going to favor the runner now. Depends how close it is, but these rule changes being implemented in the MLB this year, still not so sure that they needed it. But one thing's for sure, we're going to see it right out of the gate uh, in 2023 here for opening day.
Yeah, certainly will. And we'll have to get used to it as well. But we got used to the DH in the National League, so I guess we'll get used to that as
Well,
well.
you
And
did.
Rich,
You did.
well,
And
I'm
sir,
still not. I still don't like it, but I mean,
right.
it's here. So what are you gonna do? I mean, not much you can do about it.
Yeah, that's for
Rich,
sure.
and one thing you're gonna see when you go to the ballpark this summer or even this spring is
Opening
a
day.
new video board, a massive new video board being installed in Citizen Bank Park for the 2023 season. It'll be the largest scoreboard, one of the largest scoreboards in Major League Baseball, featuring high dynamic range, 4K and HDR capable, with an increase of 77% in size over the previous display. The new structure is currently being installed and will officially debut at the Phillies home opener against the Cincinnati Reds on Thursday, April 6th. And you will be there.
Yes, yes, I'll be there. And believe it or not, I got a Sunday plan this year. And the Phillies existing Jumbotron, if you want to call that, they used to call those Jumbotrons years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah,
was
yeah,
was really nice. It was like an HD television screen at home,
yeah.
4K if you want to even call it that. But yeah, this one's going to be even bigger. I can't imagine what it's going to look like, and I'm directly across from it, so I'll benefit from it dramatically. I'll be right across from the screen. On different games, I've been at different angles to this screen, but this year I'm going to benefit the most of it, and I'm really happy about it. Can't wait to see it. 77% bigger. That's huge. I mean, but I do like New York's boards out there. They have a nice, at the Mets stadium there. They had a nice thing going on too. So maybe that's going to be a thing amongst the teams now, with these bigger screens, and the fans love it, and it benefits everybody that goes to the game. So I can't wait. They have a lot of information on it. Of course, a lot of ads too. You get
Yeah.
pestered with, but if you've ever been to
The only
Philadelphia, they have some fun things too.
the only problem I find with those things, you find yourself looking at those things so often you miss the freaking game a lot.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of distractions at the game, and if you're used to watching the game at home, sometimes you're even more of a fan of watching it from home.
Right.
So it's not always essential to be at the stadium. I like the sound, the smells, you know, the whole 9 yards. It's very relaxing to me. And you can see other things at the game that you can't see on television, of
Right.
course.
Right.
But the real in close stuff, you're gonna miss it at the stadium. You don't know that, the batter just did this or that because you just saw something and maybe the hot dog guy was yelling or the beer guy and he distracted you. And yeah, it's interesting, but it's going to be a great screen. I can't wait, and of course, I'll be letting you know how it is right after opening day there in Philadelphia, April 6th, a Thursday.
I still get a thrill. I don't know if you do, but in Old Shea Stadium, when you used to go in and you used to go up a tunnel. Remember the tunnels coming out to the ballpark? And
Yeah,
boy, you'd come up that tunnel, and the first game of the year you go to, you couldn't see the field, and then you come up the tunnel and you see that field for the first time. Boy, it used to give me a thrill. It used to give me goosebumps.
yeah,
The green, the dirt, it just was what a thrill baseball's back. And
yeah,
same thing in City Field when you see it, except it's a little bit more open, so you see it before you can see it before you get to your seats because it's the open style now. That's the style. No more of the tunnels that you came up. But yeah, I when I went to a Cyclones game as well, minor league, got that thrill as well. And I don't think you ever lose that, no matter how old you get, because it's just the thrill of being at the ballpark, I think, and as you say, hearing the noise and the sounds and uh but there is a lot of distractions nowadays, and it's an entertainment thing. It's an entertainment venue. It becomes an entertainment dollar, and they're vying against so much other stuff, movies and whatnot, and other sporting events. So I guess that's where it has to come in. But it is a shame, years ago you used to go, and but there always was, remember all the guys with the radios in their ears, the
yeah, yeah,
transistor
yeah,
radios when I was a kid. And when I had season tickets, I had a pair of remember the headphone radios?
yeah, sure.
I had a headphone radio from Radio Shack, and
Almost like
I
mine
would,
that I'm wearing today. The
yeah,
new
yeah.
gadget I picked up for the show.
Yeah, and I would have it. I would have those. I would listen to the game on the radio, just
Yep.
so you would, if there was an argument or something, you'd say, "What are they arguing about?" At least you could get an idea from the radio. So,
Yeah, I still
uh,
have to listen to radio when I'm at a game because to me, you do miss a lot.
you
And you
do,
you can be informed more greatly if you're listening. I'll have one earbud, AirPod, whatever you want to call it, in and listening to the game, at a low volume and you pick up little things that you might not know. Oh, he's batting, 0 for 25, and then he gets a hit.
yeah,
But uh, interesting and technology. And
and
one thing that drives me crazy though, Gary, is in Philadelphia, it's like a minute and a half behind the
oh
real
yeah,
time. So you're sitting there listening to stuff that you already saw.
yeah, yeah,
Sync
yeah,
it
yeah,
together, MLB. If you're listening to this, if you're at the stadium, you should be hearing it real time. You're paying a lot of money for this.
yeah. And
Please.
look, with technology nowadays, you can watch the game at the ballpark. You can sit there on your phone, and SNY, who broadcasts the Mets game, has an app. I can get the app at the game and watch the game while I'm sitting there.
Yeah,
Uh
it's pretty
and
cool.
then you begin to wonder, well, why am I paying $30 for parking then? I can do this at home and stay warm.
Yeah.
unless you go
or
in the
cool
summertime.
if it's
Or
100
or
degrees.
cool, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, all that's going to be great fun when the season starts up. And Gary, another thing is the MLB is going to have one of its showcase games or series over there in London again this year. And we'll be talking about that more as the season starts up. But just wanted to remind our listeners June 24th and the 25th there, London Stadium. It's going to be the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs going at it at the MLB World Tour. Exciting for the fans of those teams and, people over in London as well and England. There's a whole contingent, and I'm sure you have a lot of listeners from London on your Mets Musings podcast, and they're buying into this baseball thing. There's a lot of football, quote unquote, soccer fans on this side of the pond in the USA that watches their premiership games over there in the London League there. So it's going back and forth. Nice relationship between both countries and both fans. Big contingent of Phillies fans over there in London, as well as Mets and all the individual teams. So pretty fun that this is happening.
Yeah, it's great. That should be a good series. Cubs and the Cardinals, of course, regular longtime rivals. So should be a good series. Good two teams to send over. They had the Yankees and the Red Sox over there. Maybe the Mets and the Phillies will go one year, Rich. How
Yeah, that
about
would be
that? That would be
amazing.
great, right?
That would be a greatly attended series. I can guarantee you that. The New York fans and the Philly fans, and it's a great rivalry. It's going to be a good one this year. Mets have a ton of pitching. The Phillies have some offense. Can't wait to get the season started. But hey, just a little note before we wrap it up today, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
John Heyman, the longtime writer, MLB network guy, I saw a tweet from him earlier in the week, and it struck me as a little funny. He says, you think spring training is so glamorous and things like, here's a shot of my hotel room. I don't know if you saw this one, but he was
No.
staying at a Days Inn, and it was like he put a picture up of it. And nothing against Days Inns, but it wasn't quite the 3 or 4 star standard that I guess, or 5 star standard that most of the ball players are used to. But he mentioned, he says, I have to keep my shoes on walking through every room of this place. So
Oh, okay.
it was a funny tweet. Uh, Amusing there, and I was like, I just shook my head. I was like, if people only knew, like, but John Heyman there, MLB Network, can't you upgrade him a little bit,
Yeah, you would
possibly?
think you would think with his stature and doing this so many years, he would have a standing room at another hotel. But
And here's the tweet if you're watching our broadcast on YouTube or Facebook Live here. That's we stream, by the way, now on Sundays around 11 to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to tune in live, join our Facebook feed. But there's the hotel right off on the left here. Pro tip, wear shoes in the room at all times. So gave
now
me a giggle.
the thing with the John Heyman is he goes visits all different camps, so he's in and out of these places too. He's not staying at one. He
Right,
may
right.
have one that he uses as a base, but he's traveling all over the place. So
Yeah.
doesn't give high recommendations to the Fort Pierce Days In.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. Check our show out at baseballtalkradio.com. Wherever you get your podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. Go over to our YouTube page and hit like and subscribe over there. We have 300 and some odd subscribers already to our YouTube. Maybe we can boost that over to 1,000 this year. That would be a great goal.
That'd be
And
terrific.
check out Gary's baseball talk radio show he does on the Mets called Mets Musings. I do a show on the Phillies. It's called Phillies Talk Podcast. So can't wait for next week's show. We'll be talking more about everybody reporting this week. The position players are reporting in spring training. So Gary, can't wait for next week's show already.
Yep. Pretty soon we'll have some games on television, maybe. And one thing before we go, my condolences to you on your Philadelphia Eagles losing the Super Bowl just
Yeah, I
last
think we
week.
talked about that. I think
No,
we
we
talked
just
about that last week,
no,
but
it's the first time.
but
Last week was the Super Bowl.
all right. Well, thanks for the condolences. It seemed like we talked about it, but
I texted you. That's what it was.
okay. But yeah, the Eagles, I don't know what happened, but they
At least
made
it
it.
was a good game.
They made it to the Super Bowl. It was entertaining. They kept it close, even though it shouldn't have been as close with the way they were playing. But
Yeah,
anyway, looking forward to the start of baseball season and next week's show here on the Baseball Talk Radio Show.
we'll see you then.